Such moves as they did make were entirely wrong headed. For instance, we had ordinances providing for the early closing of cafés. Instead of that we should have had laws forbidding anybody to sell liquor except between the hours of 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. Daytime drinking was always sodden, but something is necessary to make night worth while. Man is more than the beasts, and he should not be driven into dull slumber just because the sun has set. The invention of electricity, liquor, cut glass mirrors, and cards made man the master of his environment rather than its slave. Now that liquor is gone, all the other factors are mockery. Card playing has become merely an extension of the cruel and logical process of the survival of the fittest. The fellow with the best hand wins, instead of the one with the best head. Nobody draws 4 cards any more, or stands for a raise on an inside straight. The thing is just cut-throat and scientific and wholly mercenary. The kitty is gone. Nobody cares to come in to a common fund for the purchase of mineral water and cheese sandwiches. And with the passing of the kitty, the most promising development of co-operation and communism in America has gone. It was prophetic of a more perfectly organized society. In the days of the kitty, the fine socialistic ideal of "from each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs" was made specific and workable. And the inspiring romantic tradition of Robin Hood was also carried over into modern life. The kitty robbed only the rich and left the poor alone. But now none of us will contribute unquestionably to the material comfort of others. Each must keep his money for the savings bank. Perhaps something of the old friendly rivalry may be revived. In 100 years it may be that men will meet around a table, and that one will say to the other, "What have you got?" "I've got $9,876.32 in first mortgages and gilt-edged securities." "That's good. You win." But somehow or other we doubt it. Another mistake which was made in the policy of compromising with the Drys was the agreement that liquor should not be served to minors. On the contrary, the provision should have been that drink ought not to be permitted to any man more than 30 years of age. Liquor was never meant to be a steady companion. It was the animating influence which made oats wild. Work and responsibility are the portion of the mature man. Rum was designed for youthful days when the reckless avidity for experience is so great that reality must be blurred a little lest it blind us. We happened to pick up a copy of The Harvard Crimson the other day and read, "The first freshman smoker will be held at 7:45 o'clock this evening in the living room of the Union. P.H. Theopold, 25, chairman of the Smoker Committee, will act as chairman, including Clark Hodder, 25, and J.H. Child, 25, the class president and secretary respectively. After the speeches there will be a motion picture and some vaudeville by a magician from Keith's. Ginger ale, crackers and cigarettes will be served. All freshmen are invited to attend." They used to be called freshman beer nights, and in those days the possibility of friendship at first sight was not fantastic. We feel sure that it cannot be done on ginger ale. The urge for democracy does not dwell in any soft drink. The speeches will be terrible, for there will be no pleasant interruptions of "Ah, sit down" from the man in the back of the room. If somebody begins to sing "P.H. Theopold is a good old soul," it is not likely to carry conviction. Not once during the evening will any speaker confine himself to saying "To hell with Yale" and falling off the table. Probably the magician will not be able to find anything in the high hat except white rabbits. Although we have seen no first-hand report of that freshman smoker, we feel sure that it was only a crowded, self-conscious gathering of a number of young men who said little and went home early. Even from the standpoint of the strictest of abstainers, there must be some regret for the passing of rum. What man who lived through the bad old days does not remember the thrill of rectitude which came to him the first time he said, "Make mine a cigar"? Though they have taken away our rum from us, we have our memories. Not all the days have been dull grey. Back in the early pages of our diary is the entry about the trip which we made to Boston with William F. in the hard winter of 1907. It was agreed that neither of us should drink the same sort of drink twice. Staunch William achieved 19 varieties, but we topped him with 24. Upon examination we observed that the entry in the memory book was made several days later. The handwriting is a little shaky. But for that adventure we might have lived and died entirely ignorant of the nature of an "angel float." In those days human sympathy was wider. FMW seemed in many respects a matter of fact man, but it was he who chanced upon the 59th Street Circle just before dawn and paused to call the attention of all the bystanders to the statue of Columbus. "Look at him," he said, "Christopher Columbus. He discovered America, and then they sent him back to Spain in chains." He wept, and we realized for the first time that under a rough exterior there beat a heart of gold. End of Nonsenseorship by Heywood Brown.